This is the Lost Man podcast, where we embrace the challenges and triumphs of being a modern man in the middle years. Join us as we explore the rugged path of growing older, wiser and bolder in a world that's constantly changing. I'm your host John.
And I'm Matt, and together we'll navigate this uncharted territory with grit, humour and a whole lot of heart. Right, here we are. First episode of Lost Man Podcast 000001.
0001.
Johnny, how's your week been?
It's been pretty good this week. Yeah, lots going on. What do we start with? I guess training's always a good place to start. I really feel like not been getting in as much as I'd like to recently, and I know you can relate to that.
Mate, definitely. Yeah. How many times have you trained this week?
Well, I've been in there 3 times, but it's like, I think, so obviously I was made redundant recently. I'm kind of on this thing at the moment where I'm the busiest unemployed man in the whole of Greater Manchester. So I've got a payout which takes me to the end of January. New job starts in January. Working on various projects between now and then. But something about that disruption in the routine has led to, I don't know, I think I feel a bit sluggish and overweight. I think it's the combination of, transition into the winter months, a little bit coldy, not full on cold, but there's just something there, isn't there?
Do you find that if you are not rushing to a place of work,
yeah,
even though you've got a lot of things in the pipeline at the moment,
yeah,
but because you've not got that I've got to be there at 9, so I've got to be in the gym by 7.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah, you sort of structure your week around that.
Yeah.
I mean, what were you like? Because you're really good at, before you had the accident with the arm, before you had your arm operation, you were good at staying disciplined, doing your workouts at home. Like when you used to train with Will down at the fitness workshop, like for me it feels like having a destination, like going to the gym, sometimes makes it easier.
I'm not bothered about a destination. I like the routine. Even now, with not being able to train with my wrist at the moment, I'm still getting up every morning, jumping on the exercise bike.
It's good,
20 minutes, and then I'm doing 10-15 minutes of right hand body, curls, dumbbell press, squats, just to keep it ticking over.
I think so. I think I just need to get more fizz in there, more outdoor, more hiking. I've not hiked really at all this year, not properly. Like what I'm really conscious of with this bit of time off that I've got at the moment is trying to make the most of that time. So getting up and seeing you, getting up and seeing Will, trying to get out in the hills as much as possible. But the bike as well, I miss the bike, and you must be missing the bike.
But
you've
got your priorities of your business priorities that you're focusing on, so that needs to take priority in some ways. But you've got to always allow for time to train.
Yeah, but
and it just makes you feel good.
100%.
Like even though my training at the moment is just superficial, it's just full tick over.
Yeah,
I would say that it gives you that endorphin hit.
Yeah.
And I suppose it just keeps the routine. I'm terrified of ballooning and putting a load of weight on. So for me, just getting your metabolism going first thing in the morning, and then like even if you don't achieve very much in the rest of the day, you've trained.
Yeah, 100%. It's good doing it in the morning. You're a morning guy with the training.
Yeah, I much prefer training when you get to evening. Like post work, you are just knackered, and you're training. I think your training suffers.
I think that's what's holding me back a little bit because I'm doing this PT course. I'm focused on getting up first thing in the morning and getting my brain engaged with that, because I know that if I don't have that, if I start to do the revision, this is like learning to learn again after I'm 39 years and I've probably spent 39 years never learning anything.
Not learning.
So this is like learning to learn again, and so I'm like, I know that if I don't get that learning done sort of past 11, 12, 1 o'clock, there's no way I'm going to sit down with a book and start revising. But what that does is it takes away that impetus to go to the gym first thing in the morning.
Yeah, but if you're utilising that morning energy for that, for the short term, that's a good thing.
Yeah, of course it is.
That's good.
And it tends to be the case, doesn't it, that when you've got a lot of stuff going on, the thing that always tends to slip is your training or your hobbies.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
I just think as long as you just do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, everybody can fit 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Easy.
That's true.
Easy.
And I've got the spin bike at home.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Even if you just do 30 push-ups.
Yeah.
I think it's just good for your mental health.
What do you think about those guys who say, you know, like Lee was good for this? Who'd be like, you know, no excuses. There's 24 hours in the day. If you work
Arnie
out every hour.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Listen, I think no one's trying to be the next Arnie.
No.
But I think there's no excuse why you can't fit in.
Yeah.
Even with a kid, with work. You've still got 20 minutes. That's why I so religiously ride that exercise bike. It's like, because it's just done. It's easy. Get on there. When weather's rubbish, done.
It's funny, isn't it, when you come into parenthood, and I'm saying this is not having a kid, but, you know, I know people that have got kids, and, you know, you've got parents like you guys who are like, the kid fits in with our life, and you've got parents who are the other way, which are like, well, oh, God, we couldn't possibly do anything because the baby.
Well,
it's a weird way to live,
I
isn't
instigated the morning training because of the baby.
Right.
Because, like, training before that would be a bit more all over the place.
Yeah.
But then I thought, you know, time is going to be more precious now in terms of having my own time. I.e., there's no your own time. So if you get up before everybody else gets up and get it done, it's done.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing with me at the moment, and why I'm sort of all over the place isn't the right word to describe it, because there's a lot going on, but I feel pretty structured and focused. But as you know, the house is just upside down at the moment. So I live in a rented space. I've been in there for coming up to 4 years in February. It's some friends of mine that own the property, and I mean, you've seen it. It's a beautiful space.
It needs work.
It needs work.
It needs some love.
It needs some love. It's a beautiful space, but the house was built in 1860, and I think that was the same date that they did the decorating as well.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is that they're, you know, going right through the property, but what's weird about that is that every room is upside down apart from the front room. So I've got me, all my furniture, everything living in that front room, the dog, and then obviously, you know, looking after dogs on the side as a bit of a side hustle, which is an episode we'll do in the future.
Yeah, we'll touch on side hustles.
Great episode. You know, if it's me and two dogs in the front room and everything else that's going on, it's just chaos.
Chaos, mate.
Like to sit down and do things.
You can't living in a house when it's being done up or you're doing it up.
Yeah,
is really testing.
So you did, because you built this house that we're in here.
Not built.
No,
but
ripped
heavily back to brick.
Yeah,
back to brick, and we didn't live here.
No,
and you couldn't have lived here.
No.
And you wouldn't want it to live here.
No.
I mean, floors out, walls out,
yeah, new
electrics, new plumbing. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
But yours isn't quite as extreme as that.
It's not quite as extreme. The floors are being done, but it's not like, you know, pile driven the floors up. You know, like, I mean, that was literally, I mean, I remember coming around to this place before you started work on it, and it was in a bit of a state.
Well, we're sat at the moment in the workshop, I suppose. This is the garage space, the workshop, where we're filming this, which hasn't actually changed that much, but the rest of the house had. Is this what
it was like? This room?
Yeah,
apart from
all the stuff, but yeah, this is part painted and then new lighting, but apart from that, as is.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because so I'm 39, you're 37, 38, getting there.
I think I'm 38.
Push into that 40.
I am 38.
Yeah. I remember I'm
pretty sure I'm 38.
I had that a few years ago. I was stood in the shower. I was going,
am I
84? So 1, 2. That happens more as you get older, I bet. And who cares? But the point is I'm 39, never owned a property. Obviously, you're 38. You guys own this place, and it brings us nicely into the main topic of conversation.
Yeah, which is, is owning a house or owning houses, or is it as cracked up to be?
Yeah,
Hang on, let me.
that's right. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
is it?
All it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, is it all it's cracked up to be?
I don't know. What do you think?
So, I would say, well, our property journey is we've bought one house, lived in it, did it up, and then we bought our second. So this is our second house that we've lived in and done up, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
We've always done them up, so we've always put a lot of time and money into them. It's very tiring on top of a full-time job.
Yeah.
So there's that element to it as well. But I think at the moment it's also very testing financially because of mortgage interest rates.
Yeah.
So our mortgage has gone from £700 a month, £670, to it's about to go in December to 1,300 and something.
This is crazy. Like 100% increase, more than 100% increase.
Full doubled.
Yeah.
Over doubled. Is that right? No, yeah.
Yeah, over
I
doubled.
think it is.
Yeah, 110% or something.
And that's a lot of money.
That's a disgracefully large amount of money.
I'm a part-time teacher, and that is a third of what I take home from that job. That mortgage increase, not the mortgage.
Yeah, not the total.
Not the total, just the increase is a third for what I take home.
And then you talk bills.
And then you're talking bills, and this house that we're in now, it's an amazing house, and it's a bungalow.
Yeah.
It's a bungalow. It's quite big. It is quite big. It's quite a big house, but it's not a massive house. But big houses cost like big bills, basically. So
it's an open plan house, so to heat it.
Open plan. We made it open plan.
Yeah.
So it costs a fortune to run. Last Christmas, thankfully, bills have gone down. Last Christmas, we were paying £600 a month, gas and electric. £600 a month. That's now gone down to 300.
Was Benji here? Benji was here.
Benji was here. Baby was here. Yeah. So, but just vast amount of money.
Yeah.
And I was telling you before we sat down and started. Yesterday, we've got one of our pumps for our sewage system's gone. So we've got like a tank that our waste goes into, and then pumps it to the main sewage system because we're downhill of it. That pump's gone. Got a guy out, 300 quid to get him out. Guy comes out. It's only 7 years old, so we did the house up 7 years ago. Brand new then. Got the guy out. Yeah, both pumps are knackered. You're going to need 2 new pumps, which are £500-600 plus VAT.
Yeah.
Plus him fitting.
Yeah.
Which he reckons is about £1,000 a day.
Jeez. So for all you people out there wondering what am I going to do in my life and what's a good career, if you don't mind wading around in human excrement.
Yeah, a human excrement pump engineer, £1,000 a day. But that's going to be, that's £2,000-3,000 that bill will be.
Ridiculous. And there's no getting away from it. So with my place, talking about having it all done up, it's replastered, refloored, carpeted, decorated, various different bits and bobs. So having all the ceilings have come down, all the insulation sorted like that. It's going to be about £8,000 of work, £8,000 worth of work, not out of my bank.
No, and kind of that's where the angle we were coming from with this podcast is we were talking about. So for me, owning a property at the moment, it is. I've never felt confined by the property. I've never felt like it's a burden. I've always felt like it's a great thing to own this house. And whereas now is the first time where I feel that is owning a house really all it's cracked up to be. There'll be some value in it and things like that. But at the moment, it feels like a burden. It feels like something that's holding me down. It feels like the costs are kind of skyrocketing. you're like, well, we can't do that this month because we've got that to pay for, and
Yeah.
and it every month. I feel like because we did the house up 7 years ago, we're kind of going through a little bit of a like we had a plumbing bill last month, so it's
all
like
those things are coming back to haunt
there's
you.
like little things now, like little cracks starting to form, whereas with you're renting that flat, which I don't know if you want to share how much you're paying for that flat, but
nothing. $650 a month. It's $650 a month, and it's in a little town just outside of Manchester city centre. It's
in a nice town.
In a nice town, yeah. It's
very sought after. What's the going rent for
that property? Would be about 11 or 1,200 quid a month, something like that. But it's on a sweetheart deal because the people who own it are friends of mine. We're in business together. Various different reasons why, and that's why, because of the interesting state that it's been in over the past couple of years, it's been a wise move to stay there and deal with that. But
I would say though, mate, location's insane.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I'd also say like size-wise,
it's massive.
It's absolutely massive. It's
huge.
Probably 100 square meters, that flat. Three huge rooms.
Yeah.
So it's a big old, like you could literally turn that flat into
100%.
Three like bedsit size flats.
It'd be an interesting prospect to think about buying the place, but because of the age of it and because of some issues with, the electrics mainly, and just what doing up properties like. I mean, nobody knows this more than you, but doing up properties is like, there's nightmares waiting to happen around every corner. But I think what you say is interesting about feeling sort of trapped, or the potential for feeling trapped, because there's issues on both sides. If you don't own a property, then I think that there's a big stigma in the place.
Yeah.
So I'm a single bloke, I date, and I almost feel like I need to justify why it is that I haven't got a property. Oh, I didn't have the opportunities, and I haven't got, a little pot of money that's coming to me, and all those different kinds of things, which, whilst that's true, and I think a lot of the people that I know, at whatever stage they managed to get onto the property ladder, did have a helping hand. I just feel like it's a bit ridiculous that you should have to justify that. And, I always remember having a conversation with a friend of mine years ago, and it was like an opposed comment. So I said, well, it's only Britain where we feel this need to get on the property ladder. And then my mate Gordon at the time was like, yeah, but I like to think that we know something that they don't, which is an interesting comment to make, and maybe he's right. But I guess my point of view is, I guess it's all about timing, isn't it? Is now a good time to get on the property? Because I recently came into not a massive amount of money, but some money.
You could definitely get on the property ladder now.
I could get on the property ladder.
You could definitely get on the property ladder now. But
the question is it worth it? To have a massive mortgage, which is, like my mate Saul, in a similar position to you, his mortgage was 1,100 quid a month, jumped up to 1,800 quid a month. He could not he had to sell the property, mate, and move into his parents' house. And it's like, I have a nice-ish lifestyle. Is it worth putting, 15% down on a property and just being absolutely banged to the wall?
Mate, I was very much in when we've been going through this phase the last few years of like buying houses, buying this house, buying a rental house, kind of trying to do the whole property thing. And I was trying to push you, like not push you, but like
put the money away,
save it, invest in the property, yada yada yada. But then really, as soon as these interest rates has hit, I rung you up and I was like, mate, I'm so glad you didn't buy a house, because if your mortgage then was going to be what, £600-800, double that now, I mean, that'd just be crippling. And also house property values going down a little bit, so you might be in negative equity with it. So I think definitely at the moment not a good time to buy, and the benefits of renting are like no commitments.
That's right, yeah.
No maintenance fees.
Especially with mine, because I'm in a bit of a lucky position. But even so, I mean, another interesting way to think about it is, because you're like, being a teacher, high school teacher, you're kind of at the coalface with young kids, the next generation. Is there any sort of conversation amongst those guys around?
Do you know what? One big thing I feel like, and we should cover this in a podcast or maybe a couple of podcasts, is the lack of financial education we give to kids at school.
Yeah.
We don't explain anything to do with mortgages, savings accounts, even borrowing. And then you wonder why people come out and they're like chucked into debt. When you're a student, I remember going to a student fair, and it's like have this overdraft, have this overdraft.
Yeah.
Then you've got 2 overdrafts, £2,000 each, and then you just think that overdraft is free money.
Yeah, exactly. You do. You don't think about the consequences, and it's not explained. And I remember chatting to a friend of mine, because if you get real, like down the rabbit hole with this, it's like, well, why is economics not taught at a high school level? And it's like, well, some people will say because, the powers that be don't want everybody to be as educated on money as they can be, because they can't take advantage of them with these things.
Yeah, I think there's part of that. I think there's also
it's a bit murky way to look at it, but it could be true.
I think it plays into the fact that we also don't teach kids about working for yourself in the sense of running your own business. We push them all down this route of like, go to school, go to college, go to university, work for somebody. And something I like to talk to mine a lot about is, try and have a few streams of income. Maybe have a job and a little side hustle. Have a little business, and then maybe have something else on the side. Have something internet based.
Yeah, I'm side hustle. We'll cover side hustles in a proper episode. But there's, thinking about the education system, and again that warrants its whole episode. But there's, when I was a kid, I don't know what it's like now, but you were never taught anything about how to manage money, and you weren't taught anything about how to manage your own brain either. There's not really much about mental health in there, is there?
Well, there's more now, but there's nothing. Not really. It's not. There's not as much as you would hope for.
Yeah.
But I also think there's an element of like, how much can you understand at that age? How much do you care about that? But I think we do have a duty to make sure we offer that.
Yeah, I remember when I was, because obviously, I think everybody's got their own struggles, and I've certainly had mine. And I remember when I've done a couple of sort of expeditions and things, thinking about what kind of charity to support. And there's a great one out there called Young Minds. And what I thought was great about those guys was they kind of use their funding and the way that people supply money to them to invest into teachers and invest into parents, ways in which to spot mental health issues in kids, to kind of like get them at the root level. And you being a teacher, do you ever come across kids?
Mate. We don't get any training.
That's
whatsoever.
weird, isn't it? Yeah. So you don't get any training to say, this is what attention deficit looks like. This is what dyslexia looks like.
Very little.
Right.
I think. I mean, I trained over 15 years ago, so I think part of that was coming through as you were training. So maybe if you're new to teaching now, you probably get a little bit more of it.
Yeah, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Yeah. Because I think that's where that's where these things first start to display themselves, and also it can work in a back. So I was diagnosed attention deficit as a kid. And for me, being the kind of person that I am, it was just a way for me to stop teachers having a go at me. I was like, you can't say that to me, sir. I've got ADD. And they'd be like, okay.
Well, that's what they're like now, though.
Right, I bet they are.
Even more so.
Yeah.
They utilise that against you.
Right, okay. Yeah. Well, that would be a good... I think that would be a good thing to teach teachers how to get around, because all that is a blocker to education. I don't know what
we actually have done quite a lot recently on, like avoiding those behaviours and shutting conversations down, and like not even engaging in them.
Yeah.
Which is something that's quite new.
So how do you do that?
Just shut down. I'm not discussing that now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Like, here's your punishment.
Yeah.
Here's what you've done quietly.
Yeah.
Like when I was at school, it was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Matthew. Sunday name. Matthew. Outside now.
Yeah.
Whereas now, it's just it's a bit more softly.
Right,
It's
okay.
almost a little bit woke though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit like softly. So
Yeah.
I know you think that behaviour might be okay in classroom. However, it's not okay. I'm not happy with it, and I'm going to speak to you at the end of the lesson about it, and I'm going to put you on a warning.
I wonder what's a better way to do it. It's difficult to know, isn't it? Because,
And then if they're like, you're like, no,
yeah,
I'm not discussing this now.
right.
And to be fair, it does work because you can get pulled into it.
Yeah, of course you
can get pulled into an argument.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The behaviour at school is, I think, far worse now after COVID. I think it's the answering back and rudeness,
Right.
as opposed to like physical behaviours.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
was
yeah.
at school,
Yeah.
it was like set a stink bomb off in lesson. You know, whereas now it's just abuse, swearing and abuse.
Do you ever get any sort of like altercations, like not teacher kid altercations, but do the kids kick off with each other in class, anything like that?
I think I've had probably 2 fights in a classroom since I've been teaching.
Which
Literally my first year, and literally a few weeks before I had my wrist surgery.
Yeah.
So and that was a really rough group of lads that we had. Obviously, design and technology, construction, you do get those groups.
Yeah.
Or the more kind of vibrant groups. And yeah, just 2 lads went at each other big time.
That's crazy.
And then recently it was 2 girls. And I was sat at a table just working away with a small group of kids, just like going through a few things. And one of them was like, sir. And I was like, yeah. He was like, I think there's something going on over there. And I like looked, and it was 2 girls having a
That's crazy.
full-on like bitch fight.
Yeah.
Like hair,
Yeah.
hair, claws.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to get involved now,
This
do
is
you?
it,
I was like, I didn't want to get involved.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
ladies, can you stop, please?
Yeah.
You kind of walk between them, and then they stopped. But
That's the thing, isn't it? Like when you see blokes fighting, like obviously all fighting's rough. You wouldn't want to get involved. But women, when they pull that hair and they get their fingernails out, that's danger.
yeah.
But I think going back to what we were saying, the question around is it good to own a house, the good and the bad, it's probably like everything. There's good and bad to it. If you're in a position where, it's an option and it's not going to cripple you financially, then, great, definitely. But I wonder if the world needs to change, or that the stigma around it needs to change a little bit.
I would definitely say that I don't feel that stigma maybe when 10 years ago where the pressure was to own a house is there as much now.
I think it's getting better.
I think just the sheer cost of houses means that unless you're either clubbing together with a friend or a partner, it makes it very difficult. And if to do it on your own is nearly impossible, especially where you live as well. Like obviously I'm near Sheffield Peak District, you're in Manchester. It's not cheap round here. I think I know in Doncaster you could still buy a house for under 100 grand.
Sure.
There's still a lot of money though.
Yeah. It is a lot of money.
But maybe slightly more accessible than Manchester. Like how much would a house be in Manchester? Like how much would a flat be in Manchester?
Well, I reckon that apartment, if you were to split it out from the main house, is not far off £300,000.
Huge.
It's huge, and like if you're looking
you
at,
need to throw down 30.
Yeah, exactly.
And
which
then
is,
what would that be?
Yeah, so what,
£270,000 over £1,500 a month probably now.
Exactly, ridiculous.
£1,300 a month.
And if you're looking at sort of 2 up, 2 downs in, so I live in near a really nice place called Altrincham, and if you're looking at a 2 up, 2 down around there, God, I mean, depending on the quality of the finish, you can be up in the 500,000, no problem. For a 2 up, 2 down, nice, sizable terrace at the end of the day. So I don't know, and then there's the added complication. You mentioned about sort of sharing the property as well. It's almost like these days, a mortgage is more of a tie than a marriage, isn't it?
Huge financial tie,
Massive.
and also you could say to your landlord, right, that's me done. 1 month, 2 months, I'm out. I'm moving to London. I'm moving to anywhere in Europe. So it gives you that flexibility.
I think that's right, and I suppose that's what a lot of these podcasts and a lot of these subjects will come down to, which is there isn't a right way, or there isn't a right way. It's whatever is right for that person.
I mean, I'm happy with. I'm obviously happy we've invested in houses.
Yeah, of course.
And I think we've also bought them before this mad COVID increase in prices.
Yeah.
Even though I think property was quite expensive before then. So we will see like a good capital gain out of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like you can withdraw that money very easily.
Yeah.
So like long term, I think it's good.
Yeah.
But I would say like the short term at the moment, as I said, I do feel a little bit kind of trapped by it all, just because of the sheer kind of mortgage cost and running costs, and I'm probably not alone in feeling that way.
You're much better at this stuff than I am, which is like, knowing about how the economy's working and stuff, and the trends that are up and down. Like for some reason, ever since being a kid, I've never really been interested in politics, never really been interested in sort of like these economic movements. But I guess what I'm interested to know is like, where does it end, this cost of living nightmare?
Mate, I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know.
The person who knows probably be a millionaire.
I was watching the Seen Through Glass automotive podcast the other day, and they were talking about insurance costs for cars. That's gone up, not by inflation of whatever they reckon is 8% at the moment. In 1 year, they were saying 56%.
Wow.
So
I see that. I mean, I've not had any crashes, and my premium seems to go up every year.
Oh, mate, huge. My old van went from 300 to 650, 700 last year. So huge. I don't know where it ends. I think property prices will maybe come down a touch or like flatline. I think interest rates will go up maybe a tiny bit more or stay where they are for at least a year.
So what's the interest rate now?
5.25%.
Right.
I'm going to say.
And what was it when you got into it?
Oh, mate. The mortgage we were coming up. So the mortgage on this, I think we've renewed at something like 5.5%.
Yeah.
And we were coming off our mortgage was 0.75 or 1%.
How?
So, but do you know what? Historically, the average interest rate is 5%,
is
4
it?
or 5%.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're probably about where we should be.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that the value of properties is now so high compared to your income. And when interest rates were cheap, that's fine. But now they've gone expensive or back to normal, really. That has meant that the interest payments are too high.
Yeah, and you've got a couple of buy-to-let properties as well.
Yeah, we've got a couple of buy-to-lets and a kind of holiday cottage Airbnb that we're doing as well now. And we switched the mortgage for the holiday cottage because that was rented out before privately to a Airbnb mortgage to a holiday cottage mortgage, different mortgage products. So we had to change it. That was on a 2% deal. And then that's now gone to 5 point something. So that went from 200 a month to 670 a month.
And you can't make adjustments of the same magnitude in what you're charging for people to rent the property. So that's all margin.
No, not at all. That is all your margin. One of the student lets that went from. We don't have any buy-to-lets. All of ours are student lets, like multi-lets. One of one of our student lets went from 400 a month to £1,000 a month. So instantly wiping out 50% of any profit from that. And I say profit, but that same with any house. There's always a bill. There's always an electrical bill coming, 300 quid this month. You know, it doesn't take much to wipe into any of that profit. Those people that have bought investment properties like buy-to-lets for single lets, like single person like yourself, they might have been getting £700 rent a month. Mortgage was £300-400. Well, what's going to happen to that mortgage now when it renews? That's going to be £500-600 a month. They might get a little bit more rent, £700-800. But what happens if the boiler blows up?
Yeah,
£2.5 grand.
It's those things that you don't expect.
I suppose, yeah. That's kind of a different conversation, getting into kind of landlord versus tenant, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a different conversation. But, yeah, I mean, owning property, I think at the moment, it's very much feels like I've just got to stick it out.
Yeah. I think I agree. And I think for me, anybody, as just some closing thoughts from somebody who's doesn't own a property, has never owned a property, has felt the stigma of not owning a property, but has got to a point in life where, as you start to approach your 40s, you start to care less about what people think and more about what's right for you. And I think that would
that is great advice.
Yeah,
mate.
100%.
Is to do what's right for you.
Do what's right for you, and I think it's important to, like I said a moment ago, just in any context, it's about the individual and it's about what's right for you. And I think if you're in anybody's listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, oh God, the pressure's too much, well, you need to ask yourself some realistic questions like, is it really right for you? If I think about me, in the times that I've been close to going into a property investment with somebody else, it would have been a huge mistake to have gone into that property investment. I'm thinking about one person in particular back in the Knutsford days. It would have been a huge mistake to go into the property with that person. So, like everything in life, be kind to yourself and just remember, have a look at your own personal circumstances.
I would say with you, mate, to hold on to that chunk you've got.
Yeah.
And reassess. Reassess maybe in a year or two whether it's something you want to do, and also not to overstretch.
That's the point.
I think a lot of people have overstretched what they can afford.
Yeah.
Because not thinking that the interest rates could go up, or for me, in my late 30s, I've only bought houses with low interest rates.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
I've never lived through that. But now they'll be like that, right? I actually need to account for, even if they come down, I'm going to account for that extra interest rate at 5-6%.
Yeah, and the problem with overstretching is then you start going into the murky territories of, I'll just get a credit card to do this, or I'll just get a loan to do that.
I'd say whatever you think you can afford, scale it back even further from that. And if you can afford that, then look at buying.
And what would be your advice for somebody wanting to, who's kind of like sat there, they've got maybe a 15% deposit, they're ready to pull the trigger. Is now the right time? Should they wait? It's a deep one. It's a hard one.
Deep one, and I'm no expert at all, but I certainly. You could say, if you constantly invested, it doesn't matter whether, because in 20 years' time, the hope would be it's all worth more.
Yeah, of course.
If you think super long term, but I think, and also you got to think how much, if it was your dream home, maybe
go for it.
Something's worth as much as you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
So if it's worth that much to you now, then yeah.
Of course, yeah.
But I think generally I would be holding out for a couple of months at least, just to see what happens. See, just to let it all settle.
Yeah. There you go. So that brings us to the end of the first Lost Man podcast.
Yeah, Lost Man podcast number 1.
Yeah. Nice work. There we go. So there's going to be lots more coming up from us in the future. Hopefully you found this topic of conversation interesting. There's certainly going to be plenty more coming from us.
What are some of the other topics we're going to be talking about?
We're going to be looking at relationships, whether those are
family relationships,
personal
partners,
relationships, at work, whatever they might be. Even just, one of the catchphrases we came up with was knobhead neighbours. How are you getting on with your neighbours? What kind of problem are they causing in your life?
Finance, we're going to touch a little bit on finance,
definitely,
debt, things like that.
And we sort of started to talk about it today, which was, the whole idea of borrowing money and what sort of murkiness lives around that.
Yeah.
And I've kind of got some things that I want to chat about there. I think, we're just going to be really covering any of the topics that any of the things that we face in our life day to day as, a 30-something male. Yeah, I mean, this podcast is just basically our phone conversations recorded.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So that's what you're going to be getting. And if you like it, then, like it, share, leave a comment, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Indeed.
There we go. Nice one, mate.
This is the Lost Man Podcast, where we embrace the challenges and triumphs of being a modern man in the middle years. Join us as we explore the rugged path of growing older, wiser and bolder in a world that's constantly changing. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Matt. And together we'll navigate this uncharted territory with grit, humour and a whole lot of heart.